Assalamu alaikum and welcome back to another episode of Manifesting Muslimah. I'm your host, Zara Pedersen. And in today's episode, I've actually got a task for you. Yes, today's episode is interactive. I don't even know if that's the right word to use. No, but it's actually an episode where I've got like very specific things for you to do, a little reminder. As you can probably tell by the title of this episode, we're going to talk about our goals, like the things that we're asking Allah to bless our lives with. And maybe you haven't necessarily asked Allah for the thing yet, but it's still something that you've been working towards, striving towards, making plan towards, so on and so forth. And as I was sitting down and thinking about, okay, how do I want to structure today's episode and what do I really want to say with this? Because I was like, this is an important topic, but how do I want to structure it? I immediately was like, it will come out as like a lesson, like a task, like where I'm basically reminding you of what you need to do and then giving you some advice on how to get there. And then at first I was like, oh, that sounds a little bit weird. Like, should I really be doing that on a podcast? And then I was like, yeah, why not? It's my podcast. I can decide I can decide how I want to talk about the different subjects and how to structure episodes. And if some of them come out a little bit different, then that's fine too. And with that in mind, I think we're going to dive straight in. But before we do, actually, I can't believe I just said we're going to dive straight in. But I'm not actually. Got you. No, if you hear barking, my dog is having senior moments, or one of my dogs is having senior moments, and his moment is very vocal at this point in time, and there's very little I can do about it except just try and enjoy the little adventures that he's taking me on as a senior dog. And khair inshallah. So just to give you a little heads up that if there are like any barking in the background, that's what's happening. Forgive him, please. He's just a sweet little old man. Okay, now that I've said that, we can dive straight in. So I actually want you to start off. You don't have to like write things down. You don't have to sit in a quiet room or anything. You can go for a walk. You can do this kind of just like as you want and whenever you want. And the first thing I want you to do is just think about all of the goals, like however many you might have at any one moment. And you can think of them in different categories. I always like to have people kind of figure out which goals they're prioritizing right now, because I think all of us to some extent have several goals, and some of them are like goals for the future, goals for now, goals for our body, goals for when this happened, goals for when that happens. And it's kind of nice to have it categorized in some way. So I always like to say, like, just list or think about all the things that you have as a goal, and then think about like, the more pressing ones, the ones that you're actually working towards right now, like 2 or 3 goals that you're like, I'm actively chasing this, whether it's like employment, if it's trying to meet a partner, if it's financial abundance, if it's with the body, like anything at all, trying to find a new house, education, whatever it might be. So usually I'd say like most of us have like actively going, like only a couple that we can within reason chase at the same time or pursue at the same time. And anything above that, it feels like it's things just kind of fall off a little bit on the wayside, and we're not really giving it as much energy and focus as perhaps we should. So I always like to say like 2 or 3 that you're like actively working towards right now. You can have some greater ones like in for the future, like bigger ones that are dependent on you doing a lot of the smaller ones now, or like that one of the things that you're working on now might be leading you to the next one, or a goal where you're like, I'm working on it, but it's not, it's a marathon working on it. Like we're going steady and slow, but we're not sprinting. We're not working hard to get this in-house now. Okay. So thinking about the goals that you've got, maybe you've got like 2 or 3, maybe you've got 5. Listen, I'm not here to judge. I'm just, giving you my opinions from based on my experiences. Okay. So maybe you've got 5 things. Maybe you've got 1. Okay. It's totally fine. However many you might have. I want you to become clear on those goals. And here's what I really want you to think about. I want you to look at each one of the goals. Think about each one of the goals, what it is about the goal. And then I want you to look at your intention with the goal. I want you to think about your intention for setting the goal to begin with. What was the intention of the goal? Like, one thing is like, yeah, I want employment, for instance. Let's just go with that example. Like, you're looking for a job. I want employment. Okay, great. We all do. We all got bills to pay. Okay, so that's in and of itself fine. Okay, but here's where a lot of times a lot of people can get a little bit redirected or pushed off course when the hunt for a job becomes something to attach our status upon, something to impress others with, something that we feel pushed towards. So I want you to look at even like your employment and the kind of jobs that you're seeking, and what has changed from the initial, wanting to find a job to now. For instance, if it's been a little while and you're still actively searching, what has changed? And also that could also just be in your situation, but it could also be in what you're asking for in a job. What has changed within your mindset? What has your experiences taught you? Just kind of look at the whole thing, like all around, and be like, okay, what has changed? What is going on with this goal? Is there anything that has been adjusted either by myself, the market, by other people? And really take a good look at that, okay? This can take a little bit of time, okay? Because we really want to be thorough here. And the reason why we want to do this is to make sure, number one, that we are not inadvertently pushing our goal onto something that it was never about. And we also want to make sure that in the pursuit of it, and perhaps telling other people of the things that we want, we have not let other people adjust our goals for us. And this is very important to be aware of. It's so important to be aware of because even the slightest sort of redirection can delay the blessing. Meaning, if you had this idea that I'm just going to get any kind of job, I don't really care, I just need money because I've got bills to pay. And then somewhere along the line, maybe speaking to your friends or scrolling on social media or whatever, you had this idea of like, well, I'm too good to be working in a retail. I don't want to do waitressing because that's hard work. And so on and so on. Oh, I've got this education, so I have to have a job within this field, even though the bills are pressing, and really I just need to get an income so I can like keep on top and keep afloat and provide for myself. What happens is quite often just that, life kind of gets in the way, it distracts us, and all of a sudden we're setting limits on what the initial goal was, which was I just need an income so I can stay afloat while I am, I don't know, looking for my, dream job, or while I'm finishing my studies, or until I've secured an apartment with more affordable rent, whatever it might be, right? So this is why it's so important to look at it, because that redirection could slow down the success of the actual goal itself, which was to get an income. Now, I'm not saying settle for anything, but I'm saying look at your goal, look at the specifics of your goal, and bring yourself some accountability around that. Did I change my goal? Am I getting a little bit too stuck in my ego or expectations of what it's supposed to look like, the fulfillment of the goal, And it doesn't have to be, again, like it doesn't have to be like a job, and it doesn't have to be something like where you feel like you have to settle or you have to just take whatever comes your way. But it's about fulfilling the goal, the need of the goal, according to the niyyah. And if the niyyah was, I just need an extra income because I'm literally just interested in paying off a debt that I owe the bank, I don't know, on a credit card. Maybe I owe my mum because she lent me some money at a specific point in time. And if the intention is literally just to pay off that debt, quite often, this is just my opinion, and please forgive me for just inserting my opinion here, because it's not at all about my opinion, but like, who cares how you get the money? Just fulfill the intention. Get a job, get the money, pay it off, right? And then get out of it, like finish it off. You don't have to stay in that position, right? But we can quite often let ourselves get distracted. Even specifically, actually not even, but specifically by other people and how it might look or come across to other people. Let's take another example. You just want to you want to meet a partner, you want to get married, you are out there, you're single and you're tired of being single and you're like, okay, I want to get married. Now, before you know it, so quickly, and I've seen this time and time and again, a lot of us very quickly set parameters up that are quite unnecessary and slow us down on our pursuit and our journey of succeeding in actually meeting a partner. And we do this by, for instance, but I don't want to meet him on an app. But I don't want to go out clubbing. Well, I don't know how many of you go clubbing. I used to back in the day, but trust me, I am not a clubbing kind of gal anymore. But we set these parameters like, no, he has to be from this place. He has to have this kind of job. He has to live here. He has to do that. And we set a lot of things, and it's fine to have requirements like your non-negotiables. This is what I'm seeking in a partner. And another thing is how the fulfillment of the goal actually comes in. One thing, and we talk about this quite a lot in the membership, is because we're quite a few single girlies over there, it's just being available, energetically available. Put yourself out there in the market. And that doesn't have to be putting yourself out on an app. If you genuinely don't want to be on an app, don't be on an app. I'm not telling you to be on an app, but be open to meeting new people, however that may look. And that might require of you to leave the house a little bit more, meet your friends. I'm not talking about you going out there and, at guys or whatever, catcalling them. But just going out, being available. And when a guy approaches, however he may approach and from whatever avenue, instead of being like, well, he's not 6'3" and he doesn't work in finance, so immediately it's a cutoff, play with the energy. I'm not saying play with him. That's not what I said, girl. Okay? Just take note. That's not what I said. Okay? But play with the energy of being available. Go on a date if you feel like, oh, might be a fun date, And the thing about this is not that you, necessarily end up with this person. It's about making yourself available. It's an energy. It's what you put out there, right? And what people respond to. But what tends to happen is we set the goal and the intention of wanting to meet someone, but instead of actually going out there and making ourselves available to date and to meet and to potentially wife up, we start setting all of these parameters and we get distracted about what other people might think. Oh, I can't meet somebody in this way because that's frowned upon in my culture, or my mum doesn't like me when I go to a coffee shop with my friend and then somebody says, oh, you're beautiful, and I give them my number. Who cares? Don't let anybody adjust your goals for you, okay? So that's what I mean by looking at the goal from a greater scale and all around and being like, what has changed from the initial intention of the goal? What was the initial nia? The initial yearning for this thing? What was that? And has that remained the same, or has there been adjustments either by myself or from other people or society, social media? And listen, I think it's very important also to recognize that sometimes some of those adjustments are good. And you'll know this for yourself when you take stock of your goals, right? And where you are with them now. Has some of it changed, because you have experienced some things you've learned along the way? This is something that quite often happens for a lot of people when they have an idea of something and then they start working towards it. They're like, oh, actually, I think my expectation of it was slightly different going into it, but now that I've lived it for a little bit, I actually feel quite comfortable adjusting this or changing that or, removing this requirement or whatever it might be. So this whole idea of taking stock of our goals is something that we should be doing regularly. We should regularly be checking in and seeing, where am I? Is it still relevant? Is there changes that need to be made? What changes have been made that I actually am not that excited about? And one of the things that I really want to sort of have you, that was my finger that popped. If you heard that little pop, I'm so sorry. But one of the things that I really want you to be very cautionate of, that's not a word. Cautious, that's the word I'm looking for. Cautious of. Please remember that I'm actually not English. It's my second language. Well, it's actually my third, but whatever. But I lose my words sometimes. But what I want you to be cautious of is, especially when you've been sharing your goals with others, this is when unintentional adjustments tend to happen, and adjustments that we are not necessarily very pleased with ourselves, but a part of us felt shame, guilt, not humble enough, not grateful enough, whatever, and felt like we had to kind of follow through with whatever changes they kind of suggested. And quite often, I'm not going to lie to you, sis, and you've probably already guessed it already, quite often it means lowering expectations or not aiming as high. Oh, really? Why don't you start with this? This is your goal, really? That sounds that sounds very ambitious. Why don't you do this instead? And then you can always work it. Like, do you see? It sounds well-meaning enough. Like, oh, I don't want you to fail. Like, I want you to succeed. But like, start small, because that way, like, if you fall, you're not going to hurt yourself, kind of thing. But in reality, what that can sometimes tell us in our mind is we're not worthy of it, or it can tell us Allah is not going to give you that. And who are they to say any of those things, right? Even if they don't necessarily mean it, but, in their well-intentioned ways, that is basically what they're saying. So these are the kinds of things that we really want to be very, very careful of, that along the way, as we've been sharing our goals and our dreams with people, that we have not opened it up for adjustments to anybody and everybody, right? And people will, especially when they care about you, but also if they don't. Oh my God. Anybody, basically. That's what I'm saying. When they don't care about you, when they do care about you, when they care about you because they don't want you to fail and potentially get hurt along the process, or like make you feel less than because they're like, oh, I just don't want you to aim too high and then not get it. Like, that can be because they love you and they care about you and they want to protect you, right? That specifically comes from our parents, right? Like, our parents are very much falling in that category. And then like best friends also really fall into that category. And then there are like not best friends, but the friends that are like, we like you the way you are, and we are a little bit worried that you'll succeed too much, because then you might outgrow us, or it'll make us realize that we could be doing more in our own lives, and we don't want that reminder because we're not ready to invest in ourselves yet. And they can come out with the, are you sure you want to do that? Like, maybe that's a little bit too much. You really think you can do that? And that's not out of love. That is maybe because of they wanting to self-preserve in a lot of ways. Okay, that could be a whole topic for another episode if you're interested in that. But that's why it's so important to look at your goals and make sure specifically outside adjustments are not interfering. Because the thing about our goals, and I've spoken about it before, is if Allah inspires you to dream of something, a lot of the times not all the times, but a lot of the times, that is Zara. That is literally what a lot of the times means. It literally means not all the times. Why did I have to clarify that? Okay, it's a moment, my darling. It's a moment. I'm going through something. I don't know what. But a lot of the times when Allah inspires us to desire something, to want something, to dream of something, to ask Him for something, it doesn't always seem logical. It doesn't always seem realistic. It doesn't always seem like, why me? Like, why should I be that special person? But that's the reason why He's giving us that drive, and He's not telling other people to give that drive and desire to them. He's given it to you because He wants you to have it, even if it sounds ludicrous, outlandish, over the top, like you're asking for too much and whatever. And the thing about that is, we can't explain that. We can't share that feeling with other people. We can't be like, but see, feel my soul. You feel that vibration? That's from Allah. And that's why I know I need to chase this thing that sounds absolutely ludicrous. They're not going to see that. They're just going to see, okay, where did this come from? Okay, but like, let me just protect you along the way. So I'm going to like make you aim a little bit lower because what you're saying sounds a little bit like too much. Or whatever it might be that's going on in their minds, right? And this is why, again, as I say, be careful of the outside adjustments. Stay true to the desire that God has given you, the dream that God has given you, and keep coming back to that. keep coming back to that. So that is basically what I wanted to remind you of today. That is basically what I wanted to say, because I had to do this because I can't, I'm just going to be so for real with you. Shut up, Doodle. I'm sorry, I tell my dog to shut up. I sound like a bad dog mum. I promise he's very loved and very spoiled. But yes, I'm going to be so real with you. Like, I forgot to do it for a little while. And then I had to reassess my goals myself. And I was like, girl, you know this. Like, you know this. But the thing is that I forgot to remind myself of it, and nobody else was reminding me of it. And as a result, I kind of went a little bit too long. No, I'm lying to you. Astaghfirullah, I'm literally lying to you, because I didn't have to remind myself of it. It was in the membership. The girls in the membership, we were talking about my work and stuff, and they were saying some real cool things, and that conversation sparked me to have a look at my goals again. So actually, I lied when I said I had to remind myself of it again. I did not. The girls reminded me of it, which is a beautiful segue for me to just drop a little bit of marketing in here, or whatever you call it, a little advertisement, that if you've been thinking about it for some time and you haven't done it yet, sign up for the membership meetings. They are amazing. Again, I've said it before and I will die on this hill. Like, that is literally the best thing I have done with Manifesting Muslimah, is the memberships. It is £10 a month. We meet every Monday and Thursday. If you can't come to one of the meetings, don't worry. If you can't do every Monday, don't worry. You come when you can. And that is the beautiful thing about it being such a low cost offer, is that you don't, like, it's not like you're losing out if you don't come once or twice. You still just jump in, and it's such a beautiful community in there. And there's so many beautiful reminders and a lot of moments back to Deen and back to Allah. So if you haven't done it yet, what are you doing, sis? We cannot wait to meet you in there. It's an absolutely amazing community, and we'd love to say hello to you and welcome you into the group. There's a link in the show notes and in every bio where I have links and stuff. So go check it out, sign up. We can't wait to meet you. That was a segue into something else, but good. Now that is out of the way there as well. But yeah, so that was basically, I can't remember why I said that. It was something, probably something about myself. It is what it is. I am certain that you took away from this episode at this point what was relevant to you, what you needed to take away from it. Have a look at your goals. Have a little look at your goals. Don't let them stagnate. Let them evolve as you evolve. And just check in with the niyyah, check in with the original intention for the goal. And then remove all the extra, remove all the fluff, remove all the fillers. They're not necessary. Really, they're not. And they quite often are just going to weigh you down and make you get to the finish line a lot slower. So do yourself that favor. If you haven't done it in a little while, this is your reminder. I just did mine. I'd be happy if you could share yours with me if you need that kind of accountability. One way is, of course, the membership. Another way is just send me a message over on Instagram at Manifesting Muslimah and let me know what your goals are and the readjustments, or just your thoughts in general about this episode, this topic, this podcast in general. Anything really. I'd love to hear from you all. Anyway, my darling, thank you so much for listening in on today's episode. It was a little bit chaotic on my end. I do apologize for that. Yeah, it's like a specific time of the month. It's not my period, but a specific time of the month where my head is all over the place and my dog's having a senior moment. Alhamdulillah. All right, my darling, I will love you and leave you for now, but I hope I'll see you in next week's episode, inshallah. But until then, please don't forget to live in love.